Adeline Harper and the Salty Dungeon by Sarah Zimmery. Hearing the waves lap against her cell, Adeline realized agony took many forms. Silent, with gritty hair and skin, yet she was in control. Not him. Everyone called him Bull, but his real name was Mason. Almost ducking to enter the door frame with steel shoulders, he acted plenty tough to keep most of the inmates cooperative. But not Adeline. She was born different. From birth, her toes and the bottoms of her feet were a brilliant, shiny blue webbed and covered in iridescent scales. When her parents left her alone, they would return to find her soaked in salt water, sometimes playing with a sea plant or fish. Maybe they could have learned to love her despite her uniqueness if it ended there. But as soon as she learned to talk, she repeated the thoughts and intentions of everyone around her. Even parents have a limit to their love, she realized, and before her third birthday, she was abandoned to the Imperial Guard for training. Even though family was allowed to visit twice a week, Adeline's never came. Now at 12, wasting away in a dungeon cell, she could hardly remember their faces. Each time Bull twisted the rusty iron lock, she grinned at his fear. From the first creak, she opened her salty portal and let the waves build. She always made sure he could hear the splashes. He never learned to swim, and the thought of being swept up into an overpowering sea was his greatest fear. She felt his thoughts blur and his panic intensify at the sound, so she laughed boldly and sent a shallow stream of waves his direction. Adeline wasn't really mad, especially not at him. She was just proving a point. She had come to the north to band forces, to fight for freedom, and they locked her in a cell. She had sworn her allegiance weeks ago, yet they kept her in this prison. Not that she was trapped. She could escape through her portal anytime she wanted, and she'd done it at least a dozen times already. She left each time the hunger set in. Those trips were risky. Bull hated seafood, but his wife and daughter loved snow crab. When they were ready to barter, Adeline would risk a portal to what used to be Alaska in search of crabs. At first, she'd come back pinched and bleeding, with very little to show for it, but she'd gotten much better in the last week. Today was a special day because she had managed to capture 5 large snow crabs and had wrapped them in her outer cloak without getting a single injury. Hearing Bull almost at the door of her cell, she released constraint and sent scores of waist-high waves aimed in his direction. He gasped at the icy, salty water splashed up to his thighs and sent chills through his spine. A small fish wriggled between his fingers, making him scream. Adeline laughed before quickly ushering most of the salt water back into the portal, leaving only a salty, mudgy sludge beneath her webbed toes. Before he could scold her, she held out her squirming cloak with a grin. "Hey, Mason, great day for a swim, eh? Okay, fine. I'm a little sorry about the water, but I've got 5 crabs today. Just for you, fresh and still pinching. And look, not even a scratch on me this time. Any chance you could?" Bull turned around and he left before she could finish speaking. She feared maybe she really had pushed him too far this time. While she sat almost feeling regretful, the creak of the iron lock let her know someone was coming again. Once the door opened, she could tell it was Bull. He might have left without sharing any thoughts, but he was full of them now. She'd rarely known him to be in a good mood, yet right now it was as though his thoughts were dancing. Every ship in the country was in use for the war effort, and quality food supplies were starting to run thin. Seafood wasn't even a consideration for the past week. There was a spring in his step as he imagined the smiles and the hugs he'd get from his family at bringing home the crabs. It must be nice to have a family that loves you, Adeline thought. He sloshed closer to her in his salty boots and held out a wrapped package. They exchanged goods silently. She waited till she heard him leave before she opened hers to see what he'd brought her today. Meat and juice were heavily guarded, so she never expected those, but extra bread for the prisoners and pastries for the guards were left unattended in large baskets in the kitchen. Bull brought all her favorites, 2 blueberry bagels, a warm French baguette, and his own chilled lunch portion of pomegranate juice. If she had had to be trapped in this dungeon, at least it seemed like she was starting to get along with Bull.